Hello, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to dive into all the topics.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Are you ready to dive in?
Let's do it. I'm very ready.
All right. I would love to know about little you. What was she like and what did she dream about?
Okay, so little me, I guess I'll take it from two sides. First, little me, I think was very aware of people and like expectations and energy. Again, I'm answering this from like me now. I was kind of the kid who wanted to do things very well, like extra well. Okay, I'll just say perfect. Um, but also wanted to understand like why the things I was doing mattered. A lot of that comes from me growing up as a pastor's daughter. So I was constantly around conversations about like purpose and service. So I think I really internalized early on that my life was supposed to mean more than just like myself and like I was supposed to live beyond me. Um, I can say that now, but I think little me was, yes, aware, but she was also like the energy, I guess I was aware of. I love to talk, love to dance. I guess like social butterfly, my mom calls me butterfly. Um, I have six siblings, so no problem having conversations or wanting to spark conversations. Um, and I think because of like all of that energy and like joy I had, little me dreamt about being a pop star because for years I thought I was named after Britney Spears. So she was my inspo for everything. And I also dreamed about, being a baker. And then ultimately, when I became like 10, I was like, I'm going to be a dentist. Like, this just makes the most sense for me. I couldn't tell you why, but like, I wanted to be a dentist. I practiced being a dentist on like all my toys. Um, I think maybe that's the sensitive part of me that came out in a way of just like, wanting people to feel confident and good about themselves and maybe like, again, being talkative, I could sit there and talk to them the whole time with their mouth open, like dentists did to me. So, I think that's kind of like me in like a nutshell. Um, I think because of the things I said earlier, maybe I didn't understand why they mattered, but I definitely know that I wanted to make people feel seen, in spaces maybe where they didn't feel seen otherwise. And so like my talkative, outgoing nature just, I guess, kind of helped me with that. Um, and that, yeah, I guess that I think that's a little bit of of everything.
That is so beautiful. I definitely resonate with being a social butterfly, and it's so wonderful to hear. I'm so curious, how did growing up and going to school in Southern California specifically shape your perception of wellness, ambition, living with purpose, and being of service?
Yes, that's a great question. So growing up in Southern California, and I've been in Southern California my entire life, I think if anything, just taught me how to strive. I think SoCal has this like culture of like excellence and aesthetics and performance. And so you may be constantly surrounded by people who are doing a lot and like you're just looking at them like they are like killing it. Like, how are they doing this? And so I think that is like even in my own family, something that I saw and just I guess was like, this is normal, this is what we do, and it's going to be so fun. But I think that what I didn't realize until later is that I learned ambition wasn't necessarily like teaching me sustainable practices. And so I think growing up in SoCal really shaped my perception of wellness and ambition as like something that was separate. And the way that it came together, at least for me, was through athletics. So, again, having the sun and being outside, I always was a part of team sports. I did sports even in college, and I think that I was like, oh yeah, I care about my wellness because like I'm eating well. My coach is telling me I'm doing good. I'm working out. I'm sometimes forced to work out because that's what the job is. Um, and so it kind of like just checked a box. Like I'm well because I'm fit and I'm exercising, and the ambition tied to that because I'm being competitive, I'm striving to get first place, I'm striving to win. And then when I was doing it collegiately, it's helping me to pursue a degree. For me, it was very much tied to wellness is physical and ambition is mental, it's winning, it's it had to be in opposition, I guess, in a way.
That is so interesting to me, and you started to touch on this. What has success then meant to you at each of these stages? Maybe starting with as a track and field athlete and as a bachelor student, what did success mean to you then? And then I'd love to walk through each of the other stages.
Yes. So as an athlete, I think success was easy. Not that like I was winning and everything like that, but that it was like measurable. I especially collegiately, I was on the track and field team, and so especially in track, success is measurable with time, performance, discipline, the hours. And so there was like a clear feedback loop that I was getting. And as a student, I think that kind of translated in the classroom that it was measurable, like degrees, recognition, awards, scholarship acceptances, like study abroad applications going through. Like I was like, I am the epitome of success. Like they need to put my picture in the dictionary. Like so I think in undergrad, um, yeah, success just meant like on paper, like I was doing well. It meant A's, it meant number one. That is it.
Mm,
And I think when I graduated from undergrad, I still very much carried that
hmm.
with me because I went straight into a master's program. I was no longer a student athlete, but I was getting my master's degree. I was working towards my credential, becoming a teacher. And so I think although it wasn't like times and like performance, but it was like impact. So are my students, like, how are they growing? How am I showing up for them? Like, how can I tutor them and show up at 7 a.m. and go to sleep at 9 p.m.? Like, how can like my impact and effort be like my measurement of success? And that definitely continue just continue to evolve like as people do. So again, right after I finished my master's, I went straight into my doctoral program. And I believe starting out, I took that with me of like maybe both phases of my life of like, check, I'm hitting another measurable performance goal because I'm going to get another degree, which I wanted, but it was like wow, now I have this like outward showing of like achievement and that I'm doing things the right way. Um yeah, and it just evolved and until I graduated from, well, a little bit before, but I think just for like marker's sake until I graduated with my doctorate and realized like all of these things yes happened, but I still feel very disconnected to my work, to myself, to what like to how I feel. And so I guess like people say this word all the time, but like I just really felt like I wasn't aligned, like I wasn't in alignment. My life didn't feel sustainable or true to like who I am. And yeah, I think now success for me is much more about being in alignment in like every different facet of my life. Um, and I think I've lost a lot of the like it's still there, I'm not gonna lie, but like the need to outwardly show my achievement and have that be the validation of like me having impact or me being successful, um, or even me like being able to show care for like my students or family or friends.
Absolutely. And as you were speaking, I was just thinking, wow, I'm so grateful that we're having this conversation and we can talk about it on the same wavelength. I think these conversations can feel so rare to have someone have the self-awareness to notice all of these facets of themselves to then adjust and realign to notice the misalignment is such a incredible strength. And it's to me beyond any type of external form of success because I truly believe as you adjust and realign, you can still succeed in ways that are
Mhm.
measurable or impactful. But when it is aligned to who you are and it's coming from your heart, your soul, your values, your purpose, that really makes such a huge difference. And it also
Yeah.
allows you to take a step back to know you're a vessel for all of this and you have to take care of that vessel. And you've described this moment when you noticed that misalignment and it was really pivotal for you in knowing you wanted to redefine what success meant to you and to really decouple self-worth and academic achievements, which can be so difficult for so many of us, for all of the reasons in which the dominant narratives play out in society. And I would love to hear more about that moment and what that was really like.
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you it was not a cute moment. That's for sure. I I remember this, I was in the middle of writing my dissertation and I'd come home and while I was in my doctoral program full time, I was also teaching full time. And so some days were just really, really long. And so I remember coming home from work after a really just like tough day, um, and sitting on my computer and being like, all right, like we're gonna try to get like 10, 15 pages done tonight. And I just had a feeling of just like utter exhaustion. And it wasn't like my body's tired, my mind is tired, but I think I was just like depleted. Maybe that's a better word. I just felt like again, coming back to like that deeper sense of misalignment, like, and it was like, again, I said it wasn't a cute moment, but like it was very unsettling, I'm sorry, to me because I think it was when I first started to challenge the belief I held for so long that if I just like worked hard enough, or like got enough, like, um, I got enough done, had enough on my resume that like I would feel really fulfilled. And like that's when like the light bulb would go off for me. And so it's like I'm sitting on a computer with like hundreds of pages in front of me, and I'm like, this achievement alone is not going to give me that. Like and it was just like, so do I do I quit it or like what do I do now? And so I think that's when I really started to like ask different questions. There's a really good book actually that one of my mentors recommended to me. Change Your Questions, Change Your Life. I forget who it's by, but oh my goodness, such a good book. Um, and it helped me to start changing my questions instead of like asking my like self, how do I do more? It was like, how do I live differently? Like, what can I channel into like this space, into my schedule, or take out of my schedule, that's going to allow me to live differently and use what I'm typing in front of me, um, to not just say like, look, I'm so successful because I wrote a dissertation, but I'm successful because the work that I put into this goes back all the way to little Brittany saying like I know I'm here to serve and to help other people, and it's like how am I going to do that instead of just I typed it and I did it, so like yay, good for me. um and from then there was a lot of talking, a lot of with my parents, a lot of praying, a lot of crying, and just like feeling unsure. And I think for the first time in my life admitting that I felt unsure, again because I went, junior high, high school, college, master's, and it was like I'm doing all the things that I'm quote unquote told to do. And as that's coming to an end, it's just like, what does that look like for me and how does that matter? I guess while people were asking themselves that when we were 18, I was 25 and I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually kind of scary. Yeah, so I know that that is the moment that that happened for me. I wish I could remember the date so it's more dramatic, but I do remember the exact moment of coming home from work and sitting just at my desk and just like knowing that like something had to change. Um, and if I did it, it would be for the better.
Absolutely. And what you described, again, sharing that feeling, that moment, how it felt in your body, how it looked, I think it's such a gift because for anyone listening, if they feel the same, if they're having um, nights that look similar, anything that's resonant to them will really help them pick up that book, talk to someone, ask a different question, which I'm really hoping these conversations can drive. And what you shared about not focusing on doing more, but doing what is in alignment, that is so key because when you are pursuing these things with that life force and you're in alignment, um, there's this sense of connection
Mhm.
where you're putting something in and it's replenishing something inside of you.
Yeah.
And I've felt that, and I've definitely also felt the moments when I've poured into all of these different areas that were not in alignment. And so it completely depleted me because it didn't
Yes.
put anything back into my cup and it didn't um, fill it back in. And again, I just want to hug little Ricky and little Brittany because it's always driven by that sense of purpose and that bigger vision. But oftentimes the path there, driven perhaps by the questions that we're asking or the framework and the mindset that we're approaching it with at that time, um, definitely made me feel, okay, I need to do all of these things. And sometimes it's just, it's simpler than that. It is that um, that bit about crying and connecting to the divine and talking to our support systems. Um, and what is so beautiful from your stories, then you transformed this body of work that you're doing and titled your dissertation, Not at the Expense of Me, Best Practices for Black Women, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Social Justice Practitioners in Higher Education, which is
Yes.
definitely heart-led. So, what were really those distinct experiences that, maybe after this moment you reflected and pulled on those to really confirm that, okay, I have to go all in on this.
Yes. Oh, goodness. Okay. Okay. So the way you said that, I thought instantly three things, but I think now they're separate. Um, I would say two, it's two in one. So I think that to kick it off, I mean, when I started my doctorate program, I thought I'd be studying like local policy. So not the same. Like, and I was my focus was K through 12 education. Um, but the first thing was noticing the world around me. That's sometimes just how research goes. So I started my program in 2020. And from that, and I began writing my dissertation in 2023. And during 2020, there was a lot of like social unrest, and like a lot of political commentary that was just like very much in our faces. And that wasn't necessarily new to me, but it sounded different being in a more academic space. And so, from my experience, I was seeing there be a large influx of Black women being hired in higher education to lead diversity and equity work. And initially, I thought, amazing. until again 3 years had passed and the hiring rates had slowed, the retention rates were dropping of these women. And it seemed as though institutions really didn't want to keep their end of the deal. So that was the first part. The second part was myself. Yes, I was working in K through 12 education, but I was also the diversity chair of our K through 6 program at our school. And so I was doing a lot of this equity and inclusion work. And I myself was feeling just exhausted from it. Just like constantly pushing a boulder up a mountain that I could see no peak of. And so I started to like just kind of have this racketing in my brain as like, this is a pattern that just feels too consistent to ignore. And I had come home for a summer before I began writing and proposing my research idea and had a little powwow with, I have three sisters. So with my sisters and my mom, and it wasn't even a powwow about my research, it was about work. And we all were having the same kind of draining experiences. Sometimes, like for myself and my older sister, we were officially positioned in these DEI social justice spaces. Um, and yes, being like compensated for them. But my two other sisters, my mom, just maybe are the only representation there, and they are just being so deeply taxed on top of the work they're already doing. And just not in a way where it felt temporary, but like in a way that I was like, this is systemic. And then I was like, okay, goodbye, public policy work. We're going into this. And yeah, just I think that that expectation to hold space and lead change and be the people who are perfectly equipped to navigate tension, um, while not being given the support to do so, just continue to eat away at me. And I recognize again those pieces globally, internally, and then like my family was like the kick where I was like, I can't. So, like, I have these questions of like, what does it take then to actually do this work sustainably in real life? Because yes, we're tired, but like we care about this. So what does that look like? And that was, I guess, my long-winded answer of what led to my dissertation is that I guess I should have just said my sisters and my mom. But they were really like the kick that pushed me over the edge to kind of pivot my attention and my space and focus into like an area I've never been. Like I never worked in higher education. Like I was just in higher ed. I didn't work there. I didn't know people in it. So yeah, it's just completely new for me.
I love that so much and so deeply appreciative of the long answer. I think it gives the full context again of just what it really felt like to be in those moments. And I was just reflecting public policy is a chapter I had pursued as little Ricky doing Model United Nations,
Yes.
just being so passionate about that work. And similarly to you, have also found myself in these equity and inclusion spaces, and I do see them being so intrinsically linked. I'm so curious as to what the data from your research then showed you and how these different sides of you, these different interests, um, linked, diverged, found different things. What did the data and the research teach you?
Yes. So the data, I'm like, how do I make this concise? Because I could talk about data forever. But I think it, okay, and I don't like, it's hard not to like always use like big buzzwords, but just like to keep everything concise. I think that it confirmed that burnout in this space isn't accidental, but it's like it is patterned. It's not just the workload, right? It's not like, oh, there's just too much work to do and we're just so tired. But it's about emotional labor. It comes back to that, like that misalignment, but this time it's with what I applied for, what was told to me by the institution, and then what I'm actually seeing from institutional values. And I think it's also that pressure to constantly show up without the time and the space to recover. And so, like that, I think those three things were like pivotal findings after kind of like putting all the themes together from all that I was researching. Um, and I think it was really powerful to get out of these women that they were able to sustain themselves. Like, how do I say this? I'm sorry. That, okay, I think it was very interesting. And yeah, I'm going to use that same word. It's very powerful that the women that I interviewed who were able to make this sustainable, they weren't the ones that were like all over the place. They weren't the ones doing the most. They were the ones who were making very, very intentional choices. Um, and like really taking agency over their choices and the work that they were doing. So setting boundaries, building community, like really redefining what productivity looked like for them in ways that protected their well-being, especially with how different they were. A lot of the women were not from the same area, from the same state. Some of them were in private, public, Christian institutions. Some were moms. Some stayed in higher ed. Some left to corporate. So it was just really interesting to see the ways that they protected themselves. And I think that was like a very big shift for me, even just listening to them speak and share their experience, because it reframed that like sustainability is a skill, not just like a luxury. And I was like, wow, you guys are amazing. I was like, how? Again, going back to little Brittany, like they are now my Southern California. And I'm like,
Mm,
how though are you doing this? And I think that is what kind of built the framework that came from my dissertation of just
mm.
like, this is how we can do this in real time.
Wow. And from what you shared, there's so many incredible sound bites, especially the bit with sustainability. And that's truly what's coming up for me now. It's like, oh my gosh, okay, how? What is the way in which they develop this skill set? And like, what does it really
Mhm.
look like in practice to
Yeah.
pursue this excellence without sacrificing yourself? Because a lot of people want that, but they don't know what it actually looks like or feels
Yeah.
like day to day. So maybe from what you heard and then what you've been practicing, what were those skills and tips and formats that enabled them to do this?
Yeah. So for a lot of them, it was really about, again, which is tough, but putting it back on themselves, right? And saying, like, okay, well, if this environment hasn't been cultivated for me, where can I find it? Um, really being intentional in the interview process of, will this person in leadership embrace feedback from me? Will they amplify my voice? Is there opportunity for me to grow in my leadership abilities, to grow in like my practices? Um, so really trying to protect the environment that they are in. And then I think another thing, just from like not coming from such like a high level, but I think one of my biggest takeaways was like you were saying, I'm like, okay, but on the daily, like what does that look like? And I think we hear it often, but it's so true, is it's not like the big decisions, but it's those small, consistent ones. So like for example, for me, it looks like not overcommitting just because I have a 4 hour block open on my calendar, but like building like rest into my schedule before I feel burnt out or like saying no. Like even if it's like a good thing, but it just like at that moment it's not aligned with like my goals, even if my goal is I need to get 8 hours of sleep. Like, of course, sometimes I get 6 or I get 5 because I want to live and be around the people I love. But I think, yeah, that it's those little things, and sometimes that feels like very counterculture because we're taught like excellence requires all of you and you need to overextend. But I think what I've learned the most from my dissertation is that sustainable excellence like has to have boundaries. It has to have some restraint, not just like 100% effort all the time. Um, yeah, I think I could talk again forever about that. So I'm gonna just say that's it.
I love that so much. And I love the framing of it being called sustainable excellence. I feel that so deeply in my heart. And that's what I've been striving for and working toward and protecting. And it feels so wonderful to have language around it. So thank you so much for choosing to do that work and interviewing all these incredible women and asking those tough questions and putting all of it together. I'm so excited to even dive deeper into your research after this. And one element I know from your research is it's shaped your perception now of holistic wellness. How would you describe that? Because there's the new age terms, there's the social media zeitgeist terms. What are we seeing and learning from the research, and how would you describe holistic wellness?
I think that's such a good question because I think especially now, like with the social media component, like it's so ever large of like terms and definitions. And just for me, holistic wellness, I think even right now, I don't even have like a coinable like definition. To me, it's just about integration. Like I I think that it's not just about how you feel physically, like, but it's whether your life is just congruent across like all these different areas, like your work, your relationships, your faith, your rest, like my pet, my dog that I love with all my heart. Like how can they not compete with each other but be like in alignment? Again, I'm so annoying, but be in alignment with
No,
each
I
other.
love that. And that is, yeah, driving that home is so important. And I think we all have the capacity to know when things are out of alignment. Um, and we all need to get braver to in listening to that voice because
Yes.
there's something really beautiful at the end of asking those challenging questions
I
that,
think you're so right. Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
yes. So you went from the second grade classroom then to founding a consulting company, building a community online, teaching fitness.
Yes.
What have you had to let go of and release to make that leap?
Yes. I had to let go of myself. Like and I say myself as in like myself. Like, okay, I've learned I like make a lot of hand movements, but like this is myself over here that I was living in. And then there was like me. And I think it draws back to like that moment in front of the computer when I was like, what do I want? How can I live a little bit differently? And so much of that came back to the idea that like my identity was tied to one role. And like that was really hard for me. Like, I mean, just to like give like a little bit of like over bird's eye view into like my last year of that time period. Um, I was teaching second grade. I was finishing my dissertation. I was planning my wedding. And so all within like 12 months, I was doing all of these things. I got married in September, and then I no longer was teaching. I was finished with school for the first time ever. I had moved from Los Angeles to San Diego. I didn't have work to do, but like literally to like watch my dog. I moved to where my husband was located, and I just like sat there and was like, okay, I am nothing. Like, and that's how it felt. Because like for me, teaching just wasn't a job. And it still is something I deeply care about. I love to gain knowledge. I love school. And so it's like all these things just like pew, disappeared. I was far away from family, from my church home. And I realized that I was just very tightly holding on to like the structure of it, even as I was like outgrowing, like again, those like boundaries of like, I'm only a teacher, I'm just a student, like I'm in the choir. Like I just like was not ready to let go. Because I felt like, well, then I'm completely abandoning all the hard work I put in. I'm completely abandoning this like sculpture of Brittney that's been built, because I wasn't yet ready to be like, it's still there, I'm just expanding. Um, and so yeah, I think just letting go of the idea of like my identity could only be one thing, even if it had commas, like it could be like a teacher student, or maybe not commas, but a hyphen. Like she's like a student teacher, or she's like a consultant student. Like I could have that hyphen, but when they all left, I was like, I'm still a whole being here. So, like, why does that feel so big? Um, yeah. And so I haven't, that was a very hard realization for me, to kind of try to cut between that. But I definitely think that's the best way to say it is like I had to let go of that. My identity could only be tied to one thing.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And that is so profound and so on the nose for multi-passionates, multi-hyphenates, people who have a big vision, but the way in which they go about it, it can look so different across so many
Yeah.
different chapters. And we have to give ourselves um, so much love and validation driven from ourselves
Oh,
to say, hey, like these are just words. Like you can claim any of these things and drive home the same mission as a consultant, as a creator, as a teacher, as a student. Um, it can all be under that umbrella, and to have that flexibility again is such a skill set.
yes.
How did you approach that step by step? Because I, as you were speaking, think about my mission with this umbrella being safety and well-being. And there's so many ways to go about that. And there are facets of my journey so far that I want to pull back up, some that I'm ready to let go of, others that I'm so happy maintaining. It's bringing me so much joy. What has that practice looked like for you, really step by step? Like, or even what is just step one?
Yes. Oh goodness. I'm telling you, this is an experiment. I am back in school.
I love
I
that
think,
so much. That's so true. I think I've been hearing the word experiment a lot from close friends and confidants
oh,
too. So
good. Then
I
we're all
love
aligned.
this.
It's
Yes.
beautiful because I promise that is what it is. Um, I mean, of course, I would say, a lot of it I do tie to like trying to be reflective. I'm praying on the next steps that I want God to lead me in. And I think because I'm releasing control for like the first time, or working on it, I'm not perfect at it. It's really helped me to just try instead of like trying to map out a perfect next step, to like just like, because again, going back to like that school brain of like, I know the next step, you send in an application, a cover letter, and a letter of rec, and then they tell you what the next step is, you're in or you're not. It's just, I've been able to like just test different things, like different me's, different things I enjoy, different expressions of my work. So as you mentioned, I was teaching. then I was consulting for a year and a half. Then I was fully like just like immersed in like content creation and I loved it. And again, overextended myself, exhausted. And like I've been so blessed to have found, like not founded, but found the practice of yoga for my through a family member and then ultimately begin teaching it. And so like if you would have asked me 3 years ago, like, would you ever teach yoga? I'd been like, I hate doing yoga because I tried it in college and was like, my brain cannot. It is no. Like I'm over here like holding a warrior two, like, okay, are we done? Like I have 50 things I need to get done. Da-da-da-da-da. Like I couldn't. My mind was not ready to see that it could slow down or like even challenge myself to believe that I was equipped enough to slow my mind down enough to just pay attention to like what I felt and what I needed to be okay, to do work that is sustainable and feel like it was impactful. And so, yeah, I just think step by step, it's like being curious and being happy that you're able to be curious. Like, I haven't like and again, like I'm 29, so like, and the fact that like I'm like, I'm gonna be a yoga teacher. My mom's like, why are you always just doing stuff? Like 2 years ago, I was like, I'm taking tap dancing. And it was like the best thing ever. I loved it. And so I think just, again, I wasn't like, I'm gonna drop everything and go become a tap dancer professional because although I thought it was great, I have sense and perspective on my skill sets. But I think a lot of it now has just been less about certainty and more of just trying to be responsive to what's in front of me. Um, and try. And if I don't like it, great. I spent $20 on like a class and whatever, never have to do it again. But if I love it or it offers me something that I can like take for myself or share with other people, it's like, why not, I guess? So I think like, yeah, on my day to day, it's like, what is the worst that can happen? And I'm gonna just like seek after the best and, kind of go from there.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that so much, especially embracing that experimentation mindset. I heard so much of this desire for whimsy and play also coming
Yeah.
through, which is so special. And now you've worked with students and young professionals, both in your community in so many different contexts, who are navigating that in between space. So maybe they're experimenting between different things and they're trying these different things out, and it can sometimes, based on the outcomes of those things, if they're not working out, feel as though they're collecting a specific story. And this can
Mm,
be
mm,
different for all types of people from all types of backgrounds, but if there's a sense of something not clicking, not working out, there is the mindset of like failed hypotheses and continuing on the
yeah.
experiment
Yes.
versus really internalizing it, or even just to uh, speak to some of the conversation from before, just feeling really exhausted from all of
Yes.
the effort we've put into trying and experimenting. And so I'm so curious, what have you told or would you tell um, those folks who feel stuck between this liminal space? Um, and yeah, what sort of advice would you have for them?
Oh, I love that question. Okay, gotta shout out my dad on this one because we were seriously just talking about this past week, of like that conversation of feeling stuck. And he was telling me like how much like where can you start, right? Like if I really look at all the like effort and energy I've been putting into this thing, and he said, take a step back. How much of it is selfish? And when because he was saying like when It's just me focused. That's what you're caught up in is I didn't do enough or I did too little or I'm giving all this energy when and that is adding to that like emotional tax because at least for the thing we were talking about with myself because I just want to be honest, it's like I was putting like 3 hours of work into this thing a week, which like felt like just the end of my big rope. But he's like, Britt, you have like you and that's not your all if that's not your everything. So is right now the time, are you wanting to just still be selfish with your time and only give 3 hours? If so, reassess your expectations. Or are you going to be selfish in this space and give it your all? And so that was like, okay, don't call me out on things first of all. But I was like, you're so right. You're 100% right. And thank you for like wiping off my glasses lenses. Because when I was able to shift from like being like from that, I guess, selfish perspective and like placing it in the right area, I was able to like really sit down and say, okay, I'm going to like submit to this work or I'm not. And that's just not for me right now. This is for me right now. This having more time with my dog, with my husband, with my friends at work is just aligning better. It makes me happier right now. And that is going to allow me to serve better when I move through those phases that way. So like in a more like for the people that are very step by step, that is like the advice I have. And then just simply, if you're like, I'm not a step by step person, I would say slow down even more. I think that that in between space is like where you really can develop discernment and it's where you learn like what actually matters to you, not just what you've been taught to like chase after, like it's uncomfortable because we're unsure. Like, yeah, of course. Duh. But it's also where like I think you meet up with your most honest self and you can really map out what comes next. So you can either take the 3-step version I gave or like the slow down version I gave because I think a lot of times we just want to rush through the discomfort. Like we're just like, this is uncomfortable, let me chug this cup and like go. But it's like, yeah, you're gonna chug it too fast and you're gonna get heartburn and then you're gonna get a stomach ache and you're still gonna have to slow down. So it's like just sit in it and like let this phase like marinate. You're gonna be a beautiful steak afterwards, sizzling and tasty, but like it's gonna take a little bit to get there.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And just all of the different mindsets and analogies that you shared are so helpful for
Thanks.
anyone at just various phases of the journey and really what they need. And something else you've shared that I found that just so deeply resonates with me is the sense of wellness and how we rest and how we slow down, not just being things we're checking off,
Yes.
but about building our inner sense of leadership from the inside out,
Yeah.
nurturing that well-being as that foundation for then authentic, equitable leadership. And
Yes.
that is what this podcast has always been about. It's the sense of nurturing your inner leader to be an outer leader, to drive that sense of community, purpose, service all around. When we rest and we are well, we have that sense of vitality that allows us to show up for our neighbors, to lend a hand,
Yeah.
to speak up, to advocate, to push. Um, and it all starts from that like inner connection. I'm so curious as you've empowered others to to show up in that way and empowered yourself and have thought about power,
Mm.
what has that meant to you? And what does it mean to you today?
Oh, I mean, I think I'm always thinking about power because it's just always around. Um, and I think as I've gone through all these different phases and I'm still continuing to grow, that power to me is really about the ability to like choose me, even when it's uncomfortable or even when it's misunderstood. And that's in like every phase of, or not phase, but every like title that I hold, whether that's at work, whether that's like in my relationship as a wife, as a sister, like as a person in leadership at my church, like how can I choose me, so that way I can be what you need me to be. Um, and I think it's really empowering, to do that. And it's given me a lot of clarity about my next steps. And it's also helped me build trust in myself to make these choices consistently. I think kind of going back to what we discussed earlier, that was what was hard. That's what was really hard about the identity piece is like, well, I know how to make good choices as a teacher and as a student, but like, how does Brittney make that on a daily basis? And so, yeah, I think power to me right now, and I'm sure it'll continue to evolve, is just like, how can I choose myself to set myself up to take, again, to take on more, maybe, even if more just looks different, um, down the runway.
That is so beautiful. And this is one of the first times I've asked this question on the podcast, but has just been on my mind constantly. And as I share from my mission, I've been on this pursuit of good power and to really
Oh,
show up um, with that vitality to drive that. And good obviously depends on
yeah.
where you come from, what that looks like. I think that can really vary. And then power as well, like people can have so many different definitions. There's obviously the definitions from the dictionary, but your definition of power and to be empowered, I think has just been the most resonant. And I'm going to really, yeah, sit with what you shared. It's so special, and I'm so grateful. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad. And I hope you can sit with that. And I think it's it just feels so good after you're like, wait a minute. Like one, like very obvious, like I am worth like taking that myself into my own hands. And I do think like I myself am better for it, but just like I'm better for the people around me for it. Like I really believe that it's like no one wants like one, sorry, I guess just one tangent real quick, but like I used to like try really hard to show up for everyone and everything, even when I was working and in school full time. And it's like I used to get upset when people would make comments of like, oh, you're so tired, you're so tired. I'm like, yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Like I literally, you know what I'm doing right now, and I still showed up. And then I think I took time to like really reflect on that and say like, they're not like trying to come for me. It's like the people I love noticing this. And after I graduated, I remember going to brunch with friends for like the first time. Um, and it was maybe like 2 or 3 months after I got married. And one of my friends had told me, like, you feel so light to be around. And I remember I just wanted to cry because it's like, this is what I remember feeling like around all of you, being able to like fully sit here and be present and to talk to you and not be so just drained to like show up as a friend or a family member. And it's because I was taking that power back of being able to say no and to create boundaries and to like not have the identity of like Miss Do It All because she can, but because she wants to and has it scheduled and time blocked in a safe way. So just another little tidbit, but I really like am happy to hear you say that because I think just everyone is just so much better and the people around us are too when we do that.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And again, what you shared is such a gift. I'm going to re-listen to that over and over again. write it down. That piece about levity is so
Mhm.
important. I think if you have levity and vitality as your North Star, the questions that you ask, knowing you can do it all,
Yeah.
they just become so different. And this is a journey that I am finding myself on, and it's been just the most beautiful experiment. And I've had uh, successful hypotheses and failed ones, and
That happens.
it's it's just this yeah, it's so cool to hear you say that because um, again, as you shared it, I felt that and just I felt the desire as well to exist like that. And of course, um there are different things that come and go that can create heaviness.
Mm-hmm.
But again, having lightness and levity as an intention, as that like primary goal, that can really shift a lot of things as
Yeah.
people who are very capable and determined and can execute at a high capacity. I think that, um, yeah, shifts the paradigm.
Yeah.
Um, Everything that you've shared is just, again, so beautiful. And I would love to dive into the rapid fire questions if you're ready.
Let's do it.
So, we've talked about wellness a lot today. What does wellness mean to you today in this moment?
Oh, today, wellness is sustainability. It's like I've said, continuing to show up for like what matters without just like completely depleting myself. Like show up for what matters to me when I have the energy and the capacity to do it. That's it. Oh,
What does leadership mean to you today?
leadership today is creating environments where people can do the same, where they can feel supported and seen and thrive. And again, like my dissertation, they don't have to sacrifice themselves to be sustainable. Yeah, that is
I
leadership.
love that so much. Oh my God, same.
Yay.
Yay. Is there anything else that you'd like to share? Anything else that you would like to pull the thread on?
Oh my goodness. I think the last thing I want to share is I know we've talked about it before whenever we've like met, and I know we talked on Zoom about a year or so ago. And we talked a lot about like that physical exhaustion and not always being able to articulate it. And so I just think like the last thing I want to share is like just listen to your bodies. The tightness, the fatigue, the restlessness, like your body is going to hold it first. It's going to show it first. Like we are these vessels that do need like steadiness and care and rest. And so, yeah, I just want to encourage people just like to listen to their body and learn what it means not to override it. Because I do think that's been one of like the best shifts, even as a leader that I've made, to like maybe I shouldn't make a very big decision on programs when I had 2 hours of sleep. Maybe I will think about that differently, Maybe I shouldn't have this serious conversation if I'm feeling tightness or restlessness. Um, so yeah, I think that's just my last thing is that so much of wellness, I know we right now it's very big to talk about that mental component, which is so important, but like our bodies give us signals too. So yeah, just taking those seriously. Listen to yourself and find a way to integrate rest into what your body's telling you. Yeah, that's
I
okay.
love that
That's
so
it.
much.
It's my soapbox.
Thank you so, so much for joining me. Again, it's just such a gift to hear all of this from you. And yeah, I'm just so grateful.
Well, I'm grateful to be here. It's always wonderful to talk to you.